Hello and welcome to another episode of the SF Masterworks reading group. We work our way through the SF Masterworks in the order they were published as Masterworks. We read one book every month, so we'll be here for, I don't know, a couple more decades. Right now, we are. Today, we're going to be talking about Non-Stop by Brian Aldiss. That's book number 33. So we are three books short of hitting 3 years worth of books, which I think this month is actually the 3 year mark for this reading group. We had a few, I think, double headers, which we took 2 months to read,
Mhm.
or I think a couple of months we had some scheduling delays, but we'll hit 36 books in 3 months. And I think right on brand, the 36th book is a Philip K. Dick book because we have to do those ones every few
Yes.
months. so so the books I forget, I will just call this one the August book, right? So Nonstop is the August book. So for September we have The Fountains of Paradise by Arthur C. Clarke. How do you say this? Pavane, by
Pavilion, I would
Keith
say, yeah.
Pavane. Keith Roberts for October, and then Now Wait for Last Year, Philip K. Dick by Philip K. Dick for November, which is a shame because it would have been nice if we had 3 years and December. Anyway, it's fine. We'll
Hmm.
have Noah by Samuel R. Delaney to wrap up the year with, who is also a repeat author. But Clark and Roberts, our authors, will meet for the first time with this group. So that should be interesting. With me, of course, we have the usual group of friends. Susanna, could you kick off the introductions?
Hello, I'm Susanne Imaginario. I'm the author of Timelessness and I read sci-fi.
And I'm Jared. I run the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel as well as on the Speculation podcast. And you can find me on the Page Chewing forums as well.
I'm Layla Goshi, writer and editor of Ballady Magazine.
Yeah. And I'm Chris Moore. I'm from Speculations podcast and also my YouTube channel, which is Chronicle of Chris. And I do think it's worth saying that Golanks have been inspired, obviously, by this podcast because they've released a whole load more SF Masterworks for this year. They're up to 209 now. So your
Oh my
conservative
God.
estimate of a 15-year friendship was already a couple of years out. So, yeah, there we go.
How many did they do? They can't do more than 12 because we can't catch up. We cannot catch up.
I think there was 9 this year, but if there's 9 next year, and that you hear what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Okay.
We'll
We'll
never
see.
end.
We'll see. We got something to strive for.
Yeah, indeed.
Cool. So let's do the usual round of high level thoughts, I guess. So maybe Layla, you start this time.
High level thoughts. I rated this book very good. I do love the concept. Probably one of the first, reminding of something Susanna posted the other day about
We've
all of these great ideas that first came out. With these experimental, classic book, experimental then, classic books now. But I do love the concept, and so overall, high level, I loved it. Maybe I have a couple of minor quibbles, which we can get into.
Chris? You only
Yes.
go last on speculative speculations by default. You can go in whatever order you're here.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to do something in turn and then be punished for the next 15 years for it. Yes, high level thoughts non-stop. I really enjoyed it. I will admit that the first kind of 50 pages I couldn't really find my feet. I think that was intentional, as we'll come to, because the inhabitants are sort of finding their way in the dark a little bit. But I think this is the first generation ship book we've come across in the SF Masterworks. Well-known trope in that one, and the fact that the people don't know it's a generation ship is, I think, very interesting in this, and actually how that plays out actually makes makes it very interesting to do, and it asks some. I think it asks some big questions come the end of the book, not directly, but actually about the outcomes for the people on it. And the other thing I really liked about it is that just our own knowledge of science and actually of what happened and that kind of stuff, you were able to guess what was actually happening in the world, even though the characters didn't really realize, like giants, etc., what was happening there. So I thought that was really cool and made for a really propulsive read.
So you didn't consider our favorite cities in flight a generational ship?
I mean, I consider that book to be many things. I suppose there was generation ships mostly there. They had the spin disease and the cities were all kind of, yeah. I suppose you're probably right, but again, blanked out of my memory, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd bring that pain up for you. So,
Jared, now you have to make that book cool in my mind.
well, usually it's Chris doing it to me, so I get the
That
little
is true.
payback.
That is true.
Little payback. Yeah, I thought I enjoyed the book. I thought it was I thought the idea was fantastic. I like you said, Chris, I like the fact that we didn't know what was going on at first. We're trying to figure it out with the people who were involved. I at first I kind of cringed at the stupid name of the character Roy Complain, but then after a while I kind of just laughed with it and just went with it, and
Yeah.
and the but the ideas were very cool. I thought I thought the whole idea was brilliant. This ship gone wrong, basically, and it's a ship that's of course large enough to be considered a world almost, and I thought that was just great. And the a lot of the like the themes running through the book were about ideas gone wrong, basically. And I really like latched on to that, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot that went wrong here, and and a lot of the characters recognizing their insignificance and in the greater big picture of things and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting how we explored some of that stuff. I did think there were a few flaws, including just how abruptly it ended. I was like, what? We're done? But but fun. I thought it was fun. So that's good.
Susanna?
Yeah, I agree with everything. And the only thing I didn't like was the title, Non-Stop. Like,
Yes,
I would never
I
have
agree.
picked a book with this title.
Yes.
And apparently the US version is Starship, which makes a lot more sense. But I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
it's a bit of a spoiler.
yeah.
I guess back in the day would have been a spoiler for us, because I kind of recognize the plot. We are familiar with Generation Ships, so the start was a bit, yeah, like Chris said, it took me a while. I was dizzy, like the characters. Like, what the hell is going on? Is this satire? Is just bad? What the hell is going on? And then I really, yeah, it was around the 50-page mark. It just clicked, and just devoured it in a couple of days. It was great. So yeah, finally science fiction. A story beginning to end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Nice. So unlike some of you, I read the blurb, so I kind of knew what like that we might be on a ship, which I kind of wish I hadn't. I think it would have been a lot more fun for me if I had discovered with the characters that they might be on a ship. Um, and I think I agree about the rough start, and I think I never really grew out of the rough start. I love the ideas. I love what they found out, and like the mystery of the giants and the outsiders and what they turned out to be, and what they and in the end told us about the disease, quote unquote, disease. I think all of that was really cool. Um, I think I'm talking myself into really liking the book just now. Because I came here already to be the naysayer, because I see all of you have rated it very good. But I think, yeah, for me, I love the ideas, and that's all really interesting. I could not get behind any of the characters that we were following, and I think that might be by design. I don't know. I don't know who we're supposed to like, and it's fine. It's not that I don't like books with unlikable characters sometimes, but this one, maybe it's a timing thing. Maybe I wasn't in the mood, but it I did not enjoy seeing this world through these characters' eyes, if that made sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, they had like Marappa had a bit of a malfi about him, I think.
He did.
So yeah, I think overall I really enjoyed the ideas, which is I guess what we read these books for, right? So it did its job. but yeah, in terms of like pure enjoyment, I think it was very okay for me. It did do that thing for me where, I kept wanting to go back to the book because I was thinking about the what was happening in it, or like the ideas in it so much between reading sessions. So yeah, I guess I'm feeling mid about it, because there's very good stuff and then like stuff that really brought it down for me.
Well, Vasha,
Yeah.
expansion to your ego.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
that's
damn it! I was
really-
I
I'm going to start meeting people like that because
yes.
It's great.
psychoanalysis as a religion. I mean, I loved it. When that character showed up, and I was like, okay, this is satire. It's taking a piss. Completely expansion to your ego.
Love that.
Does it at some point someone get angry and say contraction to your ego?
Yes. And then they say at your expense as a response. That was just
Yeah.
brilliant. I love that.
What? Yeah, somebody explain that to me. What is that a reference to? What's the at your expense part of it?
So I saw it as because you have to pay attention to that. You have to inflate the ego. Pay your respect, pay your attention. So at your expense,
Yeah.
you pay.
Well,
that's how I interpret it. Which
yeah.
maybe that's the way that it would make sense. Maybe there's another meaning even more hilarious or just bonkers.
What Roy complains, society in Quarters, the first section, was a society that was very individualistic based, and so in order to be individualistic based, they had to have expansion to their ego in order to keep out the culture of like sharing and stuff like that. And their society was based upon the individual, and so the expansion to your ego was making the individual stronger within that person. And when you make the individual stronger, it's at the expense of somebody else. And they turned that into a saying. And I just I laughed every time I saw it. It was great.
So they were repeating that to each other quite unironically. So okay, yeah. So here's where the book lost me, and it sort of stayed lost until like the very end when everything became cool again. Was when this guy's woman got taken away, and the order in which he thought about all the things that bothered him was, oh no, I have to go report about the loss of one woman for the tribe, and then it was, oh, no one to cook for me or something, and then finally, oh, I'll miss her. So
Well, I think that's a representation, I think, of the society that we're in, because the women were rare. And so the primary need, because of the lack of them, was actually for, the roles within society, rather than actually about love. Or otherwise, it was a loss to the tribe rather than a loss to the individual in some ways. And it kind of talks about, I mean, the book is pretty much structured by this progression through the ship. And that there's an unofficial and not how we'd see it, but it's basically a class system as you make your way up from quarters to deadways to the front of the ship, etc. That each of these people, as you make your way forward, see themselves differently, are graduated from each of those points, which goes to the expansion to your egos kind of part.
Right.
The fact that they to be able to progress through the ship and to do that, they were going up in the world, literally, up through the decks to do it. So the idea that at the lower classes and the very base level that there wouldn't be really good quality or anything like that actually does fit, I think, with that idea that they kind of structured in how the story's structured.
And I see um, things depicted that way as sort of that's a continuation of War of the Worlds, which we read, which he deposited his wife somewhere and then kind of went on a jaunt to see the aliens, and but that was I don't know, that was the theme, that was the, I guess, culture of sci-fi, for what, up to that point, like 60 or 70 years, depending on which this book was written. So
Yeah, it's 58, so it's very much of
yeah,
the time as well.
at
It's
the
again
time,
reflective. Yeah.
and also of the readers, which maybe at that time were assumed to be more men than women. I don't know. There's just a lot of
Yeah.
reasons. But at the same time, it still does draw his character, which that is who he is. That is who he is. And I like that point about expansion of the ego. He had reached a point a place in the tribe. Um, where he had, the benefit of companionship
Mhm.
and so on. And so his first thought was, yeah, the ego and the loss of all of those benefits, yeah, of which he was one. But that kind of, I guess, gets turned on its head with, is it Vian? Vian, am I pronouncing that right?
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Vian, who kind of brings entry into a new tribe, maybe a more powerful tribe. Um, and I think his feelings are a little different for her because really they met as one on one. It wasn't so much just I guess, a perk of the original tribe. I don't know if that makes sense, but um, yeah. But I just want to echo a couple of other things people said real quick. It took me about 50 pages to get into it too. And I was thrown off by the name Complain. um, and I'll be honest, I started about 3 times just because I was trying to figure out, um, is this for real? What am I reading, like an allegory? Is he supposed to be very symbolic of something?
Mm.
So I'm watching for him to complain, and then I even did end up looking up what does this symbolize, and so he's seen as like the agitator, I guess, or the protagonist. So someone not comfortable with the hand he was dealt. Pardon me. So there was that, and also the point about characterization. I couldn't find a character to root for either, but the concept was so interesting and engaging that's what hooked me and kept me going to figure out, where are we going with this? And I love the ending, actually.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, about the ending, I have a question for Varsha, mostly.
Mhm.
As I understand, so at the end, after, like Jared said, one bad decision after another, so they managed to split the ship. So as I understand, every compartment of the massive ship was separated while it was in orbit. So that means everything's fucked because the singular compartments, will they be able to stay in orbit steadily until they were rescued, or they're just gonna go some crashing to Earth, and others just go out into space. And if they do crash into Earth, and then the amino acid would contaminate Earth, and everyone would. Yeah, I think at the end they ruined everything.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it.
But they got happy that they now get help, right? I don't know who they think will help them. I think they should stay in orbit because their velocity shouldn't change, like the tangential velocity. But there's also that rotation thing, so maybe they'll stay in orbit. And yeah, I don't know how the rotation from the centrifugal force, like whatever's making gravity, will work, right?
I think
Yeah.
that's the big question of the book, though, is actually their search for freedom is actually going to result in a worse life for them. I think that's the big question. This sort of, and I think that's asked right throughout the book. This idea is they're looking for the stars, looking for outside, all the rest of them. This search and this, and I think it sort of ties into what Leila's saying. When you've nobody to really root for, but you can't root for any of the characters because they're actually rooting for a more freer future, but one that's a lesser life, regardless of your quarters, deadways, or anything. And the amount of life that they had to kill on the ship, the basic killing an ecosystem that is living on this ship, and whether that's a good thing, like this insane kind of need for humanity to always be pushing forward and kind of reaching forward or
Mm.
searching for freedom in a lot of ways makes things worse for them in the long run, and because they take some false steps or otherwise. And I think that's why I like the end of the book, because it is left with that kind of open question of saying to yourself, well, actually, is happy now? I think initially they'll be happy because even
Well-
the people from Earth say to them, you're not going to like what you see down there.
Yeah. Well, in response to that, one of the characters asked, or they said, "We want to choose our own prison."
Mm-hmm.
That was the freedom that they wanted, not that they wouldn't be in a prison of some sort. Because if they went to Earth, they would have to be contained and what do you call that? Quarantine. And but they wanted the option of choosing where their prison was going to be or how their prison was going to be. So I think that's kind of the theme of the book is, pick your poison, I guess.
Well, something else I thought at the ending, because I agree with that. They were seeking a freedom but freedom on their terms.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the flip side of that, the Earthlings had decided to keep them basically unaware, and use them as an experiment, continue experimenting on them instead of helping them with what Complain really wanted, was to know and to have that awareness, and then be able to make whatever decision they could make. So in the end, it's that theme of the more you try to control something, the more it's going to slip through your fingers, to quote Star Wars. And maybe one of those things is going to crash to Earth, and next thing you know, that what is it? Alternative DNA that
Amino acid, I think.
the proton
Oh, yes,
6.
yes.
I forget what it is. Yeah. That all they need is one of those to end up crashing to Earth, and that's the end of it. So one way or another, they're either going to be dealt with now, because they can't be left up there orbiting without leaving it as a loose end, or something's going to crash to Earth and it's going to screw up it. So it really also has put Earth at great risk, instead of being open with the descendants of the original folks that they sent out. So, and that is why I loved it. I mean, I love complex endings. It's not a happy ending. Yeah, but I saw Earth having some culpability and sort of getting some punishment from the way they treated them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I might just take this point too, you know, another quibble. Now where's my brain going with this? I had another quibble about that at the end with complain. And where is it now? I've completely lost it, but I'll come back. Um, oh, one one piece of complaints character that I didn't quite buy was that he so quickly acclimated and
Yes.
accepted that they're floating in like this outer space in this void. You know, I would see that as, to use a popular term these days, ontological shock, you know, where just to realize where they are and what's going on. So I found that a bit hard to buy, but it wasn't a big deal breaker.
That's stretch credulity. I thought that as well, especially when they're. I mean, we start the book, and you've got to remember we follow 4 people going forward, but the 4 people aren't representative of everybody on the ship. So when they make the realization that they're on a ship, when they make the realization that they're actually walls that are keeping them in, rather than being the ends of the universe for them in some ways, when they see the stars, when they see the sun, etc. That is not the viewpoint of everybody on that ship. So it's almost like Roy Complain and his little merry band here have made decisions for everybody in the ship, and nobody else got a say in that. And that's why I think it's sort of questionable what happens at the end of this kind of demand and ransom, because it's a bit like you said, this extra amino acid that could contaminate and wipe out the crew originally. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much the plot of the other books that we're reading at the moment now with the Ender's Game series. It's nearly exactly the same plot and exactly the same questions in that, and there is a need to be careful with people that are more civilized, if you want to say, or more kind of advanced scientifically, to kind of say, like, how can we work with this? At a certain point, they probably overstepped the mark and kind of had them too much treated as lab rats at that stage, to excuse the term, even though there's lots of rats on there, and didn't give them enough agency or enough input into their say. But everybody else on the ship, basically living in quarters, etc., is totally unaware of any of this, and they're just existing from day to day in their own ecosystem. And I equate it very like, there's this idea that Earth and the universe is a simulation that we all live in. What would happen if somebody just revealed that it was a simulation one day, when, you know, most of the planet are quite happy in some ways, just be living out their lives? Would we want to know? Would it be right to just say that immediately and kind of spell that out for people? Because it might actually just break a lot of the structure of society down in that way. And, you know, we're following Roy Complain, obviously, but there's all the other people that are on the ship as well that will be very much, they don't even know they're on a ship. How the hell do you rationalize and deal with that?
That's a good.
Yeah. The part of the thing about that, though, is they were finding artifacts. They were finding hints and little things, journals and what have you, that were giving them clues that there was something more to their world than what was self-contained there. And it seemed to have taken quite a long time for somebody to break out of the mold, to complain enough to get out. And so I guess it depends on how you look at it, as far as how long were those artifacts building up, and how long before the right person actually looked at them in a way that was like, wait a minute, there's something more going on here. So I didn't have a problem with Complain, changing his tune after a while, because he did complain to the priest quite a bit about some of the priest's stupid ideas and stuff. And so but I think the kicker was when, of course, he found out his ancestor was Captain Complain, which cracked me up.
Yeah,
that was a bit much, but that was funny.
Although that broke the story a little bit for me, because how the hell does he end up in quarters then? The furthest part away from the
That's
ship.
a good question.
That again stretched credulity for a bit. It was a cool thing to find within the artifacts, but like how then? That doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
it's it. You're right. Yeah, that is a bit much.
So,
Uh,
what was up
Someone
with the
mentioned,
rats and the rabbit?
oh, what did you say, Susanna?
What was up with the rats and the rabbit?
I was just thinking the same thing. That's what I was going to say. The rats made it for me. I loved the rats.
Creepy.
I thought that was a great addition to the book. And yeah,
So I have a theory about so you know how the humans are on a faster evolution thing. So I guess the rats might be too. So they've evolved themselves into a civilized society where they
Mhm.
can like wield swords and stuff. But yeah, that was scary and hilarious.
Yeah. But it's also like 23 generations. That's what I'm saying. Like this
yeah,
ship is its entire new ecosystem. It's its own new planet at this stage,
Yeah.
especially because the other thing that's not really touched on, but must have come up is the fact that they took lots of samples and stuff from the planet that they were visiting the first time. So they took part of that ecosystem, human ecosystem, and then put it all together in this mesh pit. And it's not over 23 generations. It's not unsurprising that new kind of life would evolve out of that. New intelligent life might evolve out of that in some way. But I did love the appearances of the rats through it, where they're sort of peeking, watching everything that's going on, and all that kind of stuff. But if they come off the ship, there's another ecosystem kind of destroyed. Like nobody's thinking about the rats.
yeah,
Nobody's thinking about the rats. Flowers for Algernon all over again.
right.
And if any of those decks crash, I guarantee you some rats survive.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Where's the rat king? You know, there's always got to be a rat king in these stories.
so I was telling my husband about the part where these guys are in experiment, and he suggested I guess we didn't know the ending yet about what's going on with Earth, and he said maybe they never left Earth, maybe they were just there the whole time and were an experiment. I thought that would be a cool reveal for another story.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for those of you who've seen Silo, did this remind you of that
I was going to
at
mention
all?
Silo
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
This artifact thing is
yeah.
very reminiscent of that, and this fact that I mean, it creates its own mythology, doesn't it? That, like in Silo, people construct their own stories about what this artifact means, and it really works, I think, for in Silo for us because those are artifacts from our current day, their past, etc. Whereas that isn't so much relevant in this because they're finding plans of the ship. They're finding like laser cutters and things like that, which are not really part of our world, but it still does create its own mythos and mythology within their world. And this idea that something is being hidden from them and something that they're seeking knowledge at that stage, which I think give it a big lot of propulsion at that stage of kind of going, what is this thing? What could it mean? Where did it come from? Where are these people now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the artifact's definitely very silo-ish, but I also meant like I guess the closed
Oh yeah.
environment that they are in. And I guess this didn't really happen until the very end, but like the need to go outside.
Yep.
And I think what was most striking was how all the history and science and all the knowledge is kind of lost. Like I think in they don't know what stars are, they don't know what space is, like that stuff is interesting. Like I think that's an interesting sort of thought experiment of what happens to like completely walled off societies, and if somehow like all the all known knowledge gets lost, and what mythos they develop about it. And on that note also, when they see a swimming pool and they're like, this is the ocean that they talked about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that was one funny, but also I guess it makes you think about sort of like your place in the universe, right? You laugh at them because they're on a spaceship, they see a swimming pool and they think, oh, this is like this huge important cosmic thing that we know about. But on the other hand, you could say the same thing about Earth and ourselves, about like how seriously and importantly we take ourselves. So I thought that was interesting commentary, whether or not the author intended. I think he has to have for the way this world is structured
Yeah.
and like the
And then
things that yeah.
the ocean was drained,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
which kind of symbolizes the draining of your preconceptions, anyways.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that's great. And you mentioned the walls, the walled off spaces, and he had a lot of commentary about in the very beginning about the created spaces within their own society, and that kind of mirrored how they were in a created space, and
Mhm.
each of these segments of the ship were a created space, and so that all kind of tied together pretty nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. The ocean scene really, really made me laugh. But yes, I like the larger commentary about, and I guess the societal structure. So here's the other thing, right? The we talked about the woman and like being taken off and what that says about the kind of society that they are in right now, how they structured themselves. Which what do you think the author's trying to say about that? Because I remember there was this what is that book, Codwainer Smith's story, I think, in which
Okay, man.
in yeah, in one of the stories in that collection, they had this planet where there was a disease that affected only women, and
Mm.
then once all the women died, the men, they sort of like turn into this tribal society. And I think that much as I hated reading about that society, it was sort of commentary, I imagine, on what the world might look like without women in it. Like, at least that's how I chose to read it at the time. So I'm curious what the author is saying, if anything, about the way like the lower decks are structured, like the societal organization of that. What are they trying to say? Like, in what situation have we devolved, and like what are they trying to say? Is this like, if people are left to themselves, they'll like resort to like this base tribal society? Like, what do you think is going on?
The way I read it was, I'm pretty sure it says in some part of the beginning of the book that well, when he does lose, what is her name? I'll remember. When
Gwen, or isn't it?
Gwyneth, Gwen,
Gwen, something like that.
yeah,
Gwen.
something like
Yeah.
that.
uh, you know,
Gwenny.
at some point in there, it says something about needing to keep repopulating the tribe, which
Mhm.
really speaks to, I mean, really the natural value of women, which is, life, life and birth, and and so it is something of an honor and value to be at the rank in the tribe to have someone. So that's the way I read it, and I think that is kind of rooted in like how things have been for generations, and so and also really replicates, I guess, tribal cultures that we've learned about through history of, just the iconography of women and how important they are to life and rebirth. But that's kind of how I read what he was getting at with that.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting. The repopulation part of it, I guess, gives women their place.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I took it from the other side as well. The fact that she's a woman in a male-dominated society, and actually how she ends up getting captured is she sort of wanted not to be mollycoddled and looked after. She wanted to go with him, not be protected and that kind of stuff. So she was also morphing herself to fit into a male-dominated society as having worth, etc. There, that because he was a hunter. and that she could do that as well, So I think there are undertones there, for the other way around.
Mhm.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, that was also funny where he's this hunter and he's got these hunter instincts and he's hunting pigs inside a room.
Yeah, maybe I could have been a hunter in that world as well. Maybe it's all about where you decide to be a hunter. Yeah.
I liked how the some of the village elders were trying to get. They found this stash of dyes, and they wanted to get everybody kind of on the same page with a color, and which is kind of a way of trying to promote uniformity, I guess, within their tribe. So it was interesting that that was something that wasn't quite established quite yet, and that they were still kind of working on all these. They were still developing rules and cultural norms that they didn't quite have down yet, and I think that's part of Roy Complain's kind of dissonance with his own people and his own tribe, that they don't quite have that yet, and that when he's searching out for something more eventually, when he agrees to go with the priest with the daring escape plan and all that stuff, um, that that plays into his need to do that and keep going.
It's occurred to me too now that we've discussed this that actually Gwen too wanted something more. So she and Roy kind of did have something in common after all, and she ended up with a different tribe. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
We don't ever find out her fate, right? I don't think.
we
I don't
don't.
Yeah, I was disappointed in that. I thought we'd come across her
Yeah.
again. We don't know
Yeah,
who abducted her or what purpose.
Yeah.
Although it is likely, if there's a paucity of women, then she was stolen for her childbearing abilities rather than anything, research wise that the giants might have been looking for.
it
That's all.
reminded me of George R. R. Martin and uh, the um, the folks north of the wall
Hmm.
were
The Wildlings. Yeah.
kidnapping each other's
Yeah.
folks.
Castor. Yeah.
One way to avoid inbreeding.
One of the other things that really struck me is when they found out about the laser cutter, how they basically used it to destroy the ship. They destroyed their own home basically in the search for knowledge. Like they were any obstacle that they came up across, they took the shortcut of just cut the wall away, and they basically made Swiss cheese out of it. And again, no planning for consequence or anything like that. So it almost created this situation at the end of the book where they had to get off the ship because they pretty much ruined whole sections of it to be able to be habitable or otherwise.
Yeah. If you squint, that could be an analogy for nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
Well, it could be any sort of environmental
Yeah.
destruction at all. That's the fact. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, yeah.
that's the kind of
And they had an idea that they were in space by then, and they were still drilling,
That's right.
melting holes around. Yeah.
And this after they read the captain's note that he had to take away all the weapons that because they'll cut holes in the ship, and that's why they're only left with tasers. Is that just a strange name for tasers, or is that a kind of weapon that I'm not familiar with?
I thought they were tasers, just
Yeah.
different word.
And
But I didn't give it much thought, to be fair.
it could have been tasers and then changed by kind of repeated, the changing and morphing of words, just like has been done in the English language right through time.
Yeah, makes sense.
And especially if people start to make the thing, you call that a taser, but it dazes people. It's almost certainly called a taser. I think you're saying that wrong, mister.
Yeah.
These details are what make it such a smart book to me. Like like that kind of thing because they really don't have a concept. Even Complain, who becomes aware, and some others of outer space, they really don't have a concept of what would actually happen if they cut through, into space. They're just, even if they're told, you would not have that concept until you saw it yourself. And now that we're talking about that, reminds me of all the conspiracy and rumors around CERN and creating little black holes, and now it's shut down, and people are like, oh, they've shut down CERN because they must have hit a wall. Um, but I think there's so much in this book that where you could take it to that next level, whether it is the amino acid, or it is, a belief system that goes haywire, or a psychological belief or theory that goes haywire. Um, I tend to think any theory or belief can go haywire, you know.
Yeah.
And so I just found it a really smart book for that reason, that you could take almost anything in it and kind of take it to that next degree. Even the whole lab leak concept, we've now lived through that too, and yeah, they're about to have an amino acid lab leak if they don't do something about
Yeah, that's
what's
what I was saying about the about those ideas gone wrong. Is
right.
kind of the throughout sprinkled throughout the whole book,
Yeah.
and I love that the Wizard of Oz kind of uh, storytelling technique. The whole man behind the curtain ends up being nothing. Like especially when they get to the control room and there's no controls and there's nothing there, and it's like, oh, it looks like Dorothy's not getting home this way. And I just I thought there was I thought he played a lot with that kind of stuff, and like giving you this sense that something's going to happen, and then pulling the rug out from underneath you, and then going on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, we, the reader, we start to understand what's going on, and we start to see why certain actions are bad decisions, and you shouldn't be doing that. And you're just watching this catastrophe unfold, or but we're still rooting for them. But you know, yeah, we we have the whole picture after a while, and I guess our picture develops faster than for the characters.
Mm.
But then we understand what we are seeing; they don't, and it just becomes this bizarre scenario. This, yeah, it's almost as if the lenses, the perspective shift. I really enjoyed what he did with the narrator. He would break the wall now and then, just at specific points, kind of
Mm.
hook the reader in. That's clever.
Yeah, very through the looking glass aspect to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of edging toward a masterwork, but I'll ponder it. I'll ponder it for a while.
Interesting. Because I just updated my rating from okay to very good.
I think what still limits me is the characterization, but he put so much effort into the scene itself is the character, I guess. You know.
Yeah, it's definitely the characters weren't the strongest part of it. You would kind of
Yeah.
rooting for them and getting a little, but it was the situation that, like you said,
Yeah.
that was the fascinating part of the whole book.
And it's okay to have unlikable characters. I mean, it's likely he intentionally, drew drew them to not have one hero, And even the ancestor, although he tried his best, is not the hero. The Captain Complain
Yeah.
from way
I
back. He
I
did
didn't
his
think
best. Yeah.
I didn't think they were unlikable as such as they were not deep. They were not complex characters. They were they were not just straightforward two-dimensional characters. They had a function, but it's what they were, and because of the nature of their characterization and the story, you couldn't go very deep with them. So yeah, they didn't serve as an anchor. We were just at least I was just seeing as a whole, almost like a D&D party, just going and rolling the dice and disasters happen. But it was a nice mystery to unfold. Even when we realize what happened, we still want to know how it happened. And then when all that unfolds, and like, okay, so maybe this is what we should do, and then they go and do something. Okay, fine.
I mean, a good example of that is the relationship between Roy Complain and Vian. I mean, they got together, and in a lot of other stories, that would have been a driver to keep them together or something. But I don't know about you. Really never cared whether they stuck together or, were broken apart, whether either of them really died. There was never really an attachment. Even to Roy Complain about if he had died at the end as part of something. I think for us as the reader, our drive is knowledge for what's going on in this ship, and that's really, I think, where we're put in that place, rather than worrying about the fates of any of these individuals. Like you say, Marappa, like nobody cared what happened to Crazy Priest, all of that kind of stuff. So I did like some of the anthropological stuff in terms of how they determined who was faithful and who wasn't. That kind of, that they would have reverence for a dead body, and I really liked that part of it. But everything else was, character-wise, was like, okay, this is just, we're going forward in the ship. Need to get up to the deck, see space.
Yep. And that's that whole setup is pretty typical for a lot of 50s science fiction. It's not character-focused decade.
True. Starting to see that.
Yeah, enjoyed it definitely, and also about the little bit of science that was in there about the days, and about how they're kind of half days and 4 days and different bits of cycles. Like that stuff was cool, and it was like a little bit of an info dump, rather weirdly, at the end of the book rather than the start of the book, like it always happens in an awful lot of these things. But it was like, okay, because then the malnutrition and stuff about the differences of height, etc. I mean, I think we could guess that. I mean, I certainly thought about that at the time. The giants were just regular sized when they were going. Do you know that they can go up? They're 6 feet tall. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. They were like, oh, this guy's 5'8". He's a head taller than me. And I'm like, okay.
Here, the Tinder profiles and dating profiles on the ship would have been vastly different. 6 foot, you're a freak. That's cool.
Anything else before we wrap up?
It's pretty good.
Good book.
I'm keeping my rating. I think it's very good, but it's not quite Masterwork.
Yeah, I agree.
I really enjoy it. It was fun to read.
It was fun. Yeah.
It's if I don't really do star ratings, but if anybody asks me what's a good, solid 4-star book, this is about the definition of a 4-star book I can think of. As such good ideas, it executes them well to a point, but it doesn't have the greater stuff that would elevate it. It's very much for me a 4-star rock solid read for me.
Nice. All right, so we'll be back next month with The Fountains of Paradise, and then that's by Arthur C. Clarke, and then Purveyne by Keith Rogers, was it? I have to. Yeah, and then finally, of course, a Philip K. Dick book called This Time Last Year. Wait, no. Damn it.
Now wait for last year.
Now wait for last year. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye.